The movie Annabelle is about the creepy doll from The Conjuring. Unfortunately, this movie is not as scary as I hoped it would be. Annabelle, directed by John Leonetti, who directed Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Yeesh. And produced by James Wan, the man who directed The Conjuring and Insidious 1 and Insidious 2. But it doesn't have his great direction. Unfortunately, this director is a really bad director, and that's one of the reasons why this movie's so bad. The plot is we got this suburban family in the 1950s. John, played by Ward Horton, and Mia, played by Annabelle Wallis. I think that she was picked just because her name is Annabelle, and that it wasn't a coincidence. And they have a newborn baby in the oven. They hear this loud noise one night from their neighbor's house, and the wife tells John, call the police. But no, that's the smart thing to do. This is a horror movie where people do stupid things. So what does he do instead? He goes over to the house next door to investigate. Instead of calling the police and having the professionals investigate, he goes and investigates himself, finds a crime scene where two people are murdered, and he's covered in blood, so he runs out, it's not his blood, and tells his wife to call the police, the people he should call in the first place. But by then, the two people responsible, the neighbor's daughter and their boyfriend, who are involved in a satanic cult, they are already in John and Mia's house, and they're attacking Mia while she's trying to call the police, and the girlfriend is going for the dolls that she has. The police kill the boyfriend, and the girlfriend kills herself while holding one of the dolls. The doll that ends up getting haunted because the girlfriend's blood gets on the doll, and we have our horror movie, which is not a very scary horror movie, unfortunately. The acting from Ward and Annabelle, Mia, and John is terrible. They are very robotic and don't emote very well. The scares are very predictable, and even if you didn't see the trailers, you can predict what some of the scares are going to be. It's really not all that scary because I've seen the previous 3 James Wan films, Insidious 1, Insidious 2, and The Conjuring, and a lot of the scares in this movie are pulled out of those 3 movies, so it felt rehashed or recycled. And that's not really all that scary at all, really, when you think about it. One of the scares involves the ghost looking over the newborn baby when it's in the crib, and I've seen that already in Insidious 1, I believe. And we find out that it's a demon that's actually possessed, that's actually haunting the doll and not a ghost. Oh, like we haven't heard that before from James Wan. James Wan's not a bad director, it's just now he has his own cliche list. That's stinks, unfortunately. And of course the demon looks very similar to the demon from Insidious, so maybe they used a little bit of the same sketch in order to create this demon. But one of the things I did try to do when I was watching this movie is I tried to not see the doll that was in the movie, but tried to imagine the doll as a doll that is the real Annabelle doll, which is a big Raggedy Ann doll, and that did help. But of course most people are not going to do that. They're going to see a creepy looking doll that is very generically creepy instead of the big Raggedy Ann doll, which is the real doll from real life that supposedly was haunted. And that kind of makes sense with when Mia first gets the doll. She says, oh, it's perfect, this is what I always wanted, it fits the set. Of course, because if it was a real Raggedy Ann doll, then that makes sense. But it's really not that good of a movie. you can see a lot of these scares coming a mile away. One of the scares involves the husband cooking some popcorn for the wife, but the wife ends up falling asleep, so the guy decides, oh, I won't cook the popcorn, but I'll leave the popcorn on the Jiffy Pop like popcorn on the stove so the ghost can turn it on later. That's so stupid. Of course the stove is going to turn on by itself and the popcorn is going to pop up and start a fire. Duh. Again, we don't do smart things in a movie. In a horror movie, we do stupid things. Well, one of the best scares, though, in the movie is when it gets too scary, the husband decides to try to throw away the doll and puts it in a trash can, and then the family decides to move. But of course, the doll appears in one of their boxes, and I guess because we do stupid things in horror movies, or maybe because the doll has some kind of hold over the wife, she decides to keep the doll. Brilliant. And of course, more scary things happen. One of the best scares, though, is a scare in the basement of the apartment building that they end up living in later on. And then there's the scare where the doll actually begins to move one time, and that part was pretty good. But really, this is not that scary of a horror movie. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to give this movie a D, as in don't see this movie. I'm sorry. And that's all I gotta say about Annabelle.